I no, I think one of the people on the last people. I'm not sure. I know she wouldn't.
Hey, you're definitely ahead of the curve. Because how long have you been doing that?
What is that?
Maybe we've probably done it 6 or 7 times. The problems are I was telling Shashin, the problems are some of the comments I get where people are kind of bash me for the video quality.
Freaking video.
As long as it works.
Who has ever? I've never seen a good video, a talk video. You know?
Yeah. Well, they're done at conferences where they have
No, they're still not good.
AV people that.
I gave a talk at a conference in December, and it was not good. Everything well said. Sometimes they're good. If you're the keynote guy, probably.
All right. Can we get started here?
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. My name is Monty Mooney. I'm the HR director for SageWorks. We're the company that's hosting the event tonight. I want to thank everybody for coming out. Please enjoy pizza and beverages. For you guys who don't know about SageWorks, I'll just give you a quick kind of little pitch. We're a financial information company. We sell cloud-based or web-based technologies to both accounting firms and banks. Been in business since 1998. And we're always looking for very talented developers. So if you're in the market or if you have any friends that are looking, some information over here for you to take with you. But please enjoy the evening, and thanks for coming.
All right, so I'm very happy that you guys all made it here because we were getting a little nervous that with the weather and, like I said earlier, the Beyonce concert, that we might lose a good portion.
Why would anyone go to Beyonce?
What's that?
Why would anyone choose Beyonce over trying to?
I'm still surprised that Beyonce didn't cancel her show, but everybody else seemed to do it. But I'm not going to get into HBT, although I think we're probably all in the same boat. Anyway, so welcome. I'm Kyle, one of the organizers. Shao Shin's also here, another organizer. So we were just checking. I think this is our 114th meetup, so pretty awesome. So tonight we got Matthew Phillips doing DoneJS, and then coming up at the end of the month, we have so Thursday, May 26th at Dude Solutions is the React.js ecosystem. And so far we had 117 people RSVP for that. So I haven't said this before, but I'm going to say it now. If you RSVP, try to keep it up to date, because when people like SageWorks put these things on, they're trying to gauge how much space do I need, how much food do I need to provide. So we usually we dial it down to 50% turnout. So I think actually we got about 50% tonight. So it's fine on there, but it makes it a whole lot easier for the people who are hosting us if you keep your RSVP up to date. So just, I don't want to be mean or anything. So that one is, what's interesting about the React.js one is this is one that was submitted by a guy in the group saying, I think we should do this, and then 3 people said, yeah, let's do it, and now we've got 150 people. So if you have any ideas, you're more than welcome to submit a talk, or not even submit it, just suggest a talk, and if other people want to hear it, then it happens. It actually will get put on our schedule, and we have to figure out what to do next. So that's always interesting. All right, one other thing I want to do, so for those of you that actually did this, if you have it on your phone, I want to do this real quick. So if you guys could go to polarize.firebaseapp.com /TJS, I want to do this real quick. So the last beer.js, we went to Lone Rider, and that was great. So we were thinking, let's keep going to the breweries for the beer.js, because there's so many breweries around here. So I'm going to quickly vote for one while you guys do this. Oh, shoot. Now you guys are seeing the magic here. Yeah, I got to make it active. I didn't even make it active. So now you guys should see the question. So here, let me do this. I'm going to be the first to vote. I knew this was going to happen. So I wouldn't mind going to Raleigh. Okay. This is awesome. All right. So nobody wants to go to Big Boss. Somebody's changing their answer.
Can you unvote?
There we go. Yeah. So I haven't been to Raleigh Brewing. Crank Arm I've been to. Full Steam can get, as Shashin said, can get really hot once it starts to heat up. But they got awesome steam there.
No.
Crank Arm
I know
is,
what you meant by hot.
I think if you just take like Davie towards the warehouse district. So yeah, do you know where Boxcar is? Or so it's like across the train tracks. Huh?
Oh.
That's Full Steam, but Crank Arm is Raleigh. Yeah. All right, so let's try Raleigh Brewing. I know a guy that knows the guys that run that place, so hopefully we can. Although Full Steam's putting up a fight. So you guys want to go all the way to Durham? All right.
Some people.
Okay. All right. Well, that's cool. I'm glad you guys did that. So. All right. So we'll think about it. We'll do either Raleigh Brewing or Full Steam. Oh shit. I've got
I got your password.
do incognito windows, right? So there, I just voted for Raleigh Brewing. All right, cool. So we'll either do Raleigh Brewing or Full Steam. We'll get Ian to set that up because that's what Ian does. So other announcements. Does anybody have any other job announcements that they want to make or anything? Anybody release anything super cool lately? Or it's gotta be something. Every time I ask about the releases, nobody answers. I mean, I released something today that was not that cool. It was kind of fun though. Everybody likes Google and what they do with their search box, so we decided to do the same thing. We put a nice little box over here. We're gonna try the whole try to make this a little bit more sophisticated. So as people are doing the searches and we're seeing what searches are coming through, we'll dynamically generate these boxes based on volume and stuff like that. So that's awesome. I just put that out there today, and there were 0 errors. So, all right, any jobs? Nothing? Nobody's looking? Nobody wants to hire people? Okay. All right, so guess we'll let Matthew get going here. So Matthew's going to get us going here on DoneJS. And I'm going to switch to...
Do I need to share my screen?
Yeah. So here.
Okay, this all just works. I'll try to do both at the same time.
Just find out one.
Yeah. Not so good. Oh well. Hopefully everyone can see that. Thanks for coming. I'm Matthew Phillips. I work on this open source project called DoneJS. Just out of curiosity, what's everyone's kind of like, I don't know, how long have you all been writing JavaScript? You all newer or kind of experienced? 3 months? Okay.
Nice.
Not bad. There's some people that's been doing it for a very long time. They're a little bit of a mix. It's kind of a very open-ended question. Probably not the way I should have phrased that, but anyways, it's good. There's always like it when there's a good mix of people because you get different perspectives depending on where you are. So it's really good feedback for me. So, anyways, I work on this project DoneJS. So what DoneJS is a full stack. Well, not necessarily full stack. It's it's kind of a complete client-side JavaScript framework. It does everything for you from module loading to the actual UI itself, testing. It helps with CI a little bit, deployments and that kind of thing as well. So yeah, we're gonna go over some of what this provides you. Yeah, it's building single-page applications, which is what most of us build nowadays.
Can you share your screen?
Can I what now?
Share your screen.
Can I not?
No. And we have a couple of people watching, so.
I thought it was. Okay. How about this one? It's still working?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yes, DoneJS is all about single page applications, which is kind of the way that people typically build JavaScript apps nowadays. You just have one HTML page, that's all. Yeah, we're going to go through how to build a performant and useful chat application. It's kind of a nice little example. It's just a very tiny application, but it shows off some of the unique things that I think we provide. I like these transitions. They're kind of cool. I didn't do this.
So we're seeing the speaker deck online. Sorry.
How does this all work? All right, I'll share everything. Okay.
What's the Wi-Fi password? Sage, capital Sage.
There we go.
Sure?
I'm watching it.
Okay.
Caps. What's it again? Capital SAGE 2011.
Okay. So what is DoneJS? We're an open source project. First off, it's MIT licensed. It's back-end services, agnostic. We don't really, you can use whatever you want on the back end. We work well with Java or whatever, it doesn't matter. Kind of similar in scope to Meteor. That's kind of what, I mean, I don't know if that's, I don't use Meteor, but that's what a lot of people compare us to. Because we have a, we have kind of a focus on real time as well. So it's built on top of several projects. Still.js is kind of gives you the ability to load modules. We'll go over that. CanJS is our UI framework, and use jQuery for that, kind of as the backing to that. But it's how you build like components for your application. Testy runs tests for you. It's a command line tool that will open browsers and run tests for you. It's really cool. You can do things like hook it up to what's a service where you can run a browser? There's some browser service. No, Browser Stack. Yeah, Browser Stack. It's like a SaaS service that you can run browsers on. So you can run the tests on that. You can run it like on an actual physical iPad and stuff like that as well. So it gives you the ability to test anywhere. Phantom, somebody said it does that. So yeah, it works with. So our testing works with QNet, Mocha, Jasmine. I think those are the big players. We have a documentation utility called DocumentJS that will generate. It'll take all the documentation you put into like your JavaScript files and stuff like that and generate HTML docs. No one really does documentation, but it's there if you want to use it. CanConnect is our modeling layer. This is how you build like models to connect to different services. And that's backed by this really cool utility called CanSet, which does set logic. So we'll get into that just a little bit. CanSSR, it's actually called DoneSSR now. This is our server-side rendering, so you can actually run like a little node server and render your stuff server-side and send it to the client like fully rendered, which is pretty nice. We have support all the way back to IE8 if you need that sort of thing. It works on Windows, Linux, OS X. We support Node 5, 4, all the way back to 0.12. And lastly, this is not a new JavaScript framework. This has been around since I think like 2007, but it used to be called JavaScript MVC. So it's actually one of the very early JavaScript frameworks. We just kind of rebranded recently, and made it much better than it used to be. It used to run on Rhino. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was before Node existed. It was not a pleasant thing to use. Anyways, so we have a lot of features with DoneJS. We have like comprehensive testing. I don't know what that means, but we have testing, believe me. Hot module swapping is a way to, like, when you're in development mode, you can make changes to your code and it will kind of just appear. You don't have to refresh the browser. We have CI and CD, so continuous integration would be like you make a change to your app and it goes to CI, which like runs all your tests to make sure everything runs. And then we have CD is continuous deployment. This would be kind of the next step, is when something's ready to be deployed, it will just kind of do it on its own. So you can set that up with like Travis. We have ES6 modules. We like use Babel to compile ES6, so you can write all the cool new stuff. Support npm packages, so you can npm install stuff. We have we're developing an ecosystem of people writing little components for DoneJS as well. We have this pattern called modulates, which is a way to, it's a good way to organize your app into like a little small apps, kind of like. So like let's say what's a like a tabs widget. If you were like working on a tabs widget, you create like a little folder with all your JavaScript, your CSS, if you have that, your documentation, your tests. Then it'll have like a little demo page where you can like just work on that particular thing. So it's a good way to like work in isolation. That way, it makes you like make a composable kind of application. Our stuff is based off how do you say this? Model view model, which means that there's a model. You have models, you have views, and you have the view model. The view model is the thing that controls the view. We'll see that here in a second. And then we have some generators, so we make it easy for you to like do stuff like create new models or create new components. You just run a command, and it will generate it for you. So a lot of good features that way. On the usability side, so when we say usability, we mean like stuff that's good for the user. All this stuff is awesome, makes you very much more productive, but not necessarily the user are going to see this stuff. So usability would mean stuff that's directly like usable for the user. So we have real-time models, and this means that without refreshing the browser, well, we saw what he did with his polling. So you see stuff in real time. Thanks for doing that. Explained it for me. So we have two-way routing, which just means that you can connect your routes to your UI, and like when you click on a link, it's going to be tied to the route automatically. It's kind of hard to explain, but I think we'll see it here in a minute. Yeah, we have support back to IE8. It works on iOS and Android, desktop. We're big on some of these performance characteristics. We think some of this sets us apart. We have server-side rendered, or I mean, your application is server-side rendered, which means it's a buzzword. It's isomorphic. That means the same exact code can run in Node on the server that runs in the browser. And I think we do this a little bit better than anybody else. It's actually almost the exact same code that runs in both contexts. We have progressive loading, which means that when you go to a particular page in your app, we only load the JavaScript and CSS needed to render that page. We don't like, in a lot of things, like if you use, like Browserify, you might pack everything in just one file, one script, and put that script tag on your page. But our module loading you can easily break it apart into multiple pages. We have minimal data requests. What this means is that we only request data when we need to. So like when we render server side, it comes with the data with it. So the data requests don't happen on the client as well. We have minimal DOM updates. We only update the parts of the DOM that actually change. We have worker thread rendering, which is something I worked on, which is pretty cool. It's not that useful, but it's just cool. And we have CDN deployments. So yeah, like I just went over 1,000 features very quickly, and we're gonna talk about a few of these. Well, a lot of them actually. All right, so got lost. All right, so let's talk about how single-page apps are typically built. So I kind of want to compare a pretty traditional approach to what happens with DoneJS. All right, so if you've ever built a single-page app, you've probably written some HTML that looks like this. It's very minimal. All this is, actually, I think the next slides will talk about it. No, it doesn't. Okay, so we have some CSS in the head. Maybe we built our app, we packed all the CSS into one file, stuck it a link tag in the head, and then in the body we have like some loading image or something that that shows that the app is loading. And we put the script at the bottom, so the script comes last. So what happens is, well, we'll see what happens. All right, so this is we're gonna go through the complete timeline of the app loading from the start, which is when the user enters the URL in the browser, hits enter, until the page is like fully loaded, fully usable. It's fully, the JavaScript's ran and everything. Whew, okay, so traditional timeline works like this. The user starts. We return, the server returns HTML to the browser. The browser renders that HTML. This is what you get. You're going to see a loading indicator, or a loading image at first, which is this. So we have the loading image, right? the browser makes 2 requests kind of at the same time, actually. Well, not exactly the same time, but in parallel for the CSS and the JavaScript. At this point, the user sees, a loading image. That comes back, and that comes back. So the CSS is gonna, do its thing. The JavaScript actually has to run, which is gonna partially render the page. But then usually, in dynamic applications, anyways, you're gonna have to make additional data requests for like services or whatever to show like the rest of your page. So you're gonna have like some loading indicators, make your data requests, that comes back, and then render that part of the page. And then when the data is completely finished, you'll have the fully rendered page. So it's kind of a 4-step process. All right. So that's the traditional timeline. Done this a million times. DoneJS timeline is condensed. We kind of took all the steps and packed them together. You still have to make all the requests for like the JavaScript and CSS. It's just not visible to the user. All right, starts out the same. The user enters the URL, clicks a link, or however they get to your page. We send back, like we do server-side rendering. So we we have a virtual DOM that runs in Node. It runs the same code, your exact same code. It renders that HTML. It includes the data with it, so you get the HTML and the data at the same time. So the user sees fully rendered page. You still have to make the requests. You still have to get the JavaScript and CSS. That's not included in the initial request. But to the user, it looks fully rendered. They can kind of use it. If you have form fields and stuff like that, you still have to wait for the JavaScript and the CSS to kick in. You got to do that anyways. But yeah, so it is fully rendered, and then once the JavaScript executes, then it's actually usable. But to the user, there's no difference at all. So that's what our timeline looks like. All right, cool. Let's go through. We're going to build a chat application. We're not actually going to build it. It's videos because I hate doing live coding. But yeah, we're gonna do it. We'll say we did it. It's going to look like this. It's got a home page. It has some tabs. Just why not? Because just the hell of it. It has a chat page which has a list of chat messages. So we're going to see. I went over like 1,000 features earlier. We're going to go through. These are the ones we're going to go through. Server-side rendering, progressive loading, data caching, CDN deployments. We're not going through CDN deployments, but whatever. Hot module swapping, which is a really cool dev feature I talked about. NPM packages, custom elements. You can write custom elements. We're a big fan of. There's web components, so we're a big fan of that thing. So we have that. You'll see some generators, and you'll see a real-time connection. All right, so there's some steps. We do setup. We're going to add. Let's go through them one at a time. That makes more sense. Setup. So yeah, if you never used DoneJS before, you have to install DoneJS using npm. Npm install DoneJS/G is how you install it. This is our global that you can use. So you only have to do this once ever. Once you have it, then you'll run this next command, which is DoneJS add app. So this is how we're going to generate a new application. Goes through a few steps. It's going to ask you some questions. This is all like stuff that npm asks you. It's all the same questions. It actually takes longer than the video shows, but once it's done, you have a fully generated app. And we'll see into the project, we run DoneJS develop, so it puts us in development mode, starts our server for us, and we have like some verbose log in here, but it's usually a little bit quieter than that. And then you get hello world. We need a prettier initial page. That's something we need to work on. You just hello world for now. All right, so yeah, it generates you get a little README. You have a package JSON, which is where all your dependencies will go. Then you'll have just some initial files. So we use a templating language, which is called Stash. It's based off of Mustache and Handlebars. It's more or less the same thing. Here we're going to show off hot module swapping. So in development mode, you can just edit files, and as soon as you save them, you'll see it show up in the browser. So you don't have to refresh the browser or do anything special. It's pretty nice. It just saves you the time, of refreshing the browser. It has to fetch all the different files all at once. This is typically how you work. It's a really cool feature. Next, we're going to add Bootstrap, so we have some basic styles. So this kind of shows off that, yeah, you can use npm packages. In this case, we're going to use some. This is less, I believe. So you install Bootstrap. We have the ability to import stuff directly into the template. So we're going to import the Bootstrap less.
So what is that can import tag? Is that a?
It's a CanJS is our UI framework. It's just a convention. Yeah, it's a custom element that we created. So yeah, you can import less or whatever you need. You might import. Typically, what you'll do is you'll have custom elements that you create, and you'll import those into your template because you're going to use those in your template. So yeah, we did Bootstrap. We're adding a image here. And then when you save it, we get the image with Bootstrap now. So I said we had hot module swapping. This happens both in. Hopefully, you can see this better. Oh no, the resolution's not very good. I promise you, it's rendering it actually the server is hooked to the what happens is we have a WebSocket server that sets, and anytime a file changes, it lets the browser know, and that's how it updates itself. And this happens both on the server and the client. So you refresh the page, you're going to get the new page, basically the current state. All right, so we're going to create two pages. So we're going to have two routes. We're going to have a home page, and we're going to have a chat page. It's /chat. So yeah, so we're going to build two custom elements for this: chat home and chat messages. And we can use the generator to do this. If you run DoneJS add component. In this case, we're going to use this .component thing. Some people don't like this. I don't know, but basically it creates a component in one file. I think Polymer has something similar to this. So we're going to create a home component. You'll see what this looks like here in a second. Sorry. So this is a .component file. It allows you to put your JavaScript, your template, your CSS all into one file. And you might use this if you have very small modules that don't do very small components that are mostly just UI. In this case, the home page doesn't really have any logic at all, so it doesn't really need JavaScript or anything like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a link which goes to the chat page. Before I mentioned two-way routing. If you notice here, we have a helper that we use called route URL. We don't actually, in your when you're creating links to pages, you don't actually put, we don't put the dash chat in there yourself, because what happens if in the future you want to change the routes, you don't have to update everywhere that you're linking and stuff. So we have some helpers that make this easier. Just say that the page that you want the route to be chat, and it's gonna create that link to be -chat.
Are those styles scoped to this component?
Yes.
Do you have to call block on all of them? Does it just do that?
I don't know. You might have to do it. Good feature though we could add. Yeah, no, I think it's generated with blocks, so I guess yeah, you couldn't remove that, I guess. What I think the reason why, for those that don't know, if you have an element that's not a normal element, it's I think it's inline block by default or something like that. So you have to make those be, or or I mean, it's inline display, right? Because they're like unknown elements, so you have to make those be display blocks. So generators generate that for you.
It could be like one of the other elements that you can create that actually don't show up in the UI. So like Polymer has a whole bunch of elements that actually have no display whatsoever. They're just, you add like a
Yeah,
Iron Ajax tag to the page.
yeah, we have
Iron
those as
Ajax
well.
column, but there's no actual display. Does that make sense?
We have those. We're actually going to build one of those. Yeah, so you can create components that don't actually, there's nothing to see. It's just some type of logic. Okay, so the next step is we generated, I'm gonna pause the video. Sorry. We generated the chat page, and what that actually did was it generated a folder, and you can't see it at all. Sorry about that, because the projector is not good enough. But what it is, and this is how you would usually create a component. All we did is we left, before we did home.component, we left that part off, and it generated a folder. And that folder is going to have, if you really squint, you can kind of tell, it has a _test. This is like your test for this particular component. It has a .html page, which is a demo page, we call them. This lets you like work in isolation and work on just that component. It has the JavaScript itself, which is going to be kind of the view model for this component. This has less as a markdown file for documentation, and it has its own test page, so you can run just the test for this as well. Okay, so to start, we're just going to add a link that goes back to the home page. So there's going to be a link at the top of this that goes back to the home page. So this is like the stuff is based on view models. So there's a view model which encompasses your entire application. This is your application state. A lot of other frameworks have. We also are going to define a route in here. So what we're going to say is /page, and the default page is home. So there's only two routes. When page changes to chat, the route's going to show /chat. Okay, so now I think we should be able to see it happen. All right, we've created two components which act as our pages. Now we're going to put them into this template here. So we're going to use another helper, the equals helper. So when the page is equal to chat, we're going to import the messages component. So we're doing this dynamically. I mentioned before that we have progressive loading in DoneJS. What this means is that you can if you want to, you can only load different components when you actually, let me say that again. You only load the page, you only load the JavaScript CSS that you need for a particular page. So when you're on the messages page, you only load that code, and when you're on the home page, you only load that code. And when the user goes to the other page, we'll dynamically import that part. So yeah, we're dynamically importing the messages if it's equal to chat, and we're just inserting that. So you have chat messages, the custom element. We're inserting that when it's finished. And if you notice here, we're doing all this if is pending stuff, and that's because while it's actually loading, you might want to show a loading spinner or something like that. When it's finished, that's when you'll actually insert it. Okay. So yeah, there's two pages. If it's chat, we show that one, and otherwise we show the home page. That's the default, and it all looks the same.
So I'm sorry, I'm asking a lot of questions. So when the chat messages loads, it's going to be loading the fully rendered chat messages?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so it will would it cache? So each time you return, you're just going to get cache version first, or are you just always going to get a new version of the chat messages?
I understand what you mean by that.
So if chat messages is built on the server, you wouldn't be caching that data on the client.
Yeah, the data comes with it. It won't go get more data. It won't go get the chat messages. That's embedded with the HTML. So the first load, it will use the cache data to do the to to do its logic. It still runs the exact same code. It thinks it's making a request, but we like intercept the request because we have that data already as part of the initial request.
Yeah, if the route changes and then you come back.
Oh yeah, if the route, yeah. If you start the chat and you go to home, then you come back to the chat, then it will make the request. It's only for the initial. Now we have our model layer has caching, so you could cache it more aggressively if you wanted to, but that's kind of, then you get into the problem of when do you invalidate the cache? That's always a tough thing to figure out. Cool. Okay, so we've set this up. Now we have 2 pages. Oh, it was supposed to show it navigating between the 2 pages. Sorry about that. All right, so now we have 2 pages. We're going to finish out the chat page, which is the actual chat part of the application. If you run DoneJS add supermodel message, it creates a supermodel. Hopefully, I thought people would like the pun a little bit better. There's huh? Yeah, that was a little bit of fun.
Sorry.
It's a supermodel because it has like real-time connection. It has like different caching. It has all these different. It has our model layer allows you to like plug together different what we call behaviors. So like one of those is connecting to a real-time service. Actually, we call it inline cache is the ability to like use the cache it's inlined into the page. We have like local storage cache. So we have all these different like behaviors you can kind of plug together with your models. So a supermodel is one that kind of has all the default behaviors built together. Anyways, we're going to create a messages model. And the messages model is what's going to make the request to our service to get a list of messages, and to also save messages. All right, so this is what the model looks like. It looks a little verbose, but it's done this way because it's kind of neatly broken into all the different little parts. The key part is down here, though. This is where we set up our connection. We're importing this can connect as our modeling layer. We're importing this thing called the super map, and this is how we connect to a real-time service. At this point, we're just setting it up so that we can actually connect and get the messages like a normal AJAX request. Then we're defining like what is our because we have some type data. We have this message type and a list type. So we're kind of defining all that. The cool part is down here where it says tag. I don't know if you all can see that in the back, but what we're doing is we're defining a custom element that this model would be hooked to. So in our template, we can use this custom element to like make requests directly within the template. So we're gonna import this model so we can use it. The tag name is called message model. Every component kind of like, you can think about custom elements, think about JavaScript APIs, you kind of define what the methods are and that kind of thing. Like custom elements are the same way. You can think about them like the attributes or how you pass data to a custom element. So in this case, the API for this is get list. So we're saying that we want to get a list of messages. You can define you can pass in parameters. So if you only want to get like new messages, you could define that in there. And then inside of here, we're going to wait till we get the value of the message. And inside of message model is a we call a promise. I don't know if you all are familiar with JavaScript promises, but it's the same way that before we did like if is pending, show a loading. You could do the same thing here, but we're not going to do that. We're just gonna pretend like it happens instantly, and we're going to loop over the value of the promise. And for each value, so it's for like each message in the list, we're going to it's got a lot of bootstrappy class stuff, but basically we're showing the name, the person who wrote the message, and then the body of the message itself. Then we have an else condition, so if there are no messages, we're going to show a no messages here. Then we're going to insert a form, and the form is the way that you can actually submit messages. So we're setting up some data binding here. So in order to use stuff that's like part of a form in the JavaScript code, we're binding this input to some properties within our components view model. So every component is backed by what we call a view model, which is a JavaScript special type that we'll see here in a second. Then we're going to say when the form is actually submitted, we're going to call this send method, which is on our view model. We'll see what that looks like next. So this is the component, the chat page's view model. We're going to import the message model because we need that to save the messages. So all we need here is we need a send method because this is the method that we defined in the template for when the submission happens. We're going to call prevent default. That prevents the browser from actually handling the form itself. Then we say new message. We want to create a new message. And we're going to pass in the name. So this .adder name gets the name property from our view model. And this adder body gets the body property. So we're creating a new message with the name of the body. Then we're going to call save, which is actually going to make the post request to the server. And that's going to return a promise, and we're going to empty out the body part when that's finished. So what you'll see is that we'll enter a message, press send, and then the body will disappear, because that's how you know that you can enter another message.
Why do some of the resources have information?
That's for like non-JavaScript. They used to be needed to have it's not actually needed anymore. These videos are a little bit old, but it's for like non-JavaScript stuff. It uses plugins to load stuff. So like when you import a less, it's not actually, it's not JavaScript. So the normal thing would like throw an error.
So in this case, it's possible to connect to just slightly different, I don't know, just Java, any type of language, C++.
Oh no, you can't connect to that. No, it's all stuff that runs in the browser. So like for the less when
just external applications, something like that.
You are you talking about this imports? Is that what you're talking about? Oh no, you can't run C++ code in the browser. No.
No, I'm talking about just external application, any type of it's written Java, C++. PHP and so on.
You would do that with the models. You would connect to like a service, right?
Maybe some statistics, for example.
Some statistics.
Just example.
Like you talking about like some C++ library that does statistics?
Maybe Java.
No, you can't run anything like that in the browser. What you would do in that case is you would have like some service maybe written in Java. In the service, you would send it, you would send it a request to do your statistics or something like that. But you couldn't run the Java code.
So I know it's just a huge problem. So that can't connect to just external
It is.
JavaScript.
Yeah, I know. It's what the browser allows, though. I know what to tell you. You always have to write services when you want to use a different language.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So what happened here is we create a new message and we saved it, which saved the message to the server. So this would be funny if you could see it, but it says it's that Adele song. So whatever. You probably can't even see it. It says Adele, it's me. Whoever person who did these videos had a good sense of humor. Okay, so that's just the basics. That's you can write that yourself. But it makes it very easy to do it this way. You know, you saw how we were able to import the model into the template, loop over, like get a list of messages, loop over that, and render each message without ever leaving the template. So it makes it very easy to do stuff like that. So we're showing off local storage. So stuff we're connected to local storage. What this means is that when, how do I say this? Okay, so let's say we're on the home page and we have some stuff in our local storage cache. The user goes to the chat page. What would happen would be we render what's in our cache like immediately. We still make the request to the services to get like a fresh copy, but the user sees messages right away. They see what was already cached. We make the request. The request comes back. We update the cache and we render the newest fresh results. So that's just kind of one of the nice things that our modeling layer provides.
So that's all baked into the model layer.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And this is configurable. You don't have to use the local storage if you don't want it or need it. There's a memory storage. I would like to create like an IndexedDB storage, but we don't have that yet. So another thing that our modeling layer provides is the ability to connect to real-time services pretty easily. So we're going to install this Socket.io module. This allows us to use Socket.io to connect to a service.
So this code running on the server and also on the client?
Yeah. We don't connect to the server, to the real-time service in the server though, because that doesn't make any sense. Because on the server, it's an HTTP request. You want to render and you're done. You don't like keep a connection. It's hard for me to understand that, but that's why we have like this. It's not Socket.io. It's still Socket.io because there's like a shim for the server.
So that particular section of code there that exploits the message connection, you can swap out whatever API URL you want to get, say on a Mongo collection of some sort.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember all the options, but like I think that the URL might take like an object where you can define like what the method is, and there you can do a lot of stuff with it. The model layer is not my expertise, so I can't speak that well on it. But yeah, you can connect. Actually, we're connecting to. I think we might be connecting to Mongo here. But key thing here. Let me pause this. So yeah, we're setting up a real-time connection. I'm gonna back up because I wasn't talking. We're importing still Socket.io, which is basically just Socket.io. And how you use Socket.io is you create a socket. So we're going to create a socket here. We're going to connect this socket to chat.donejs.com. So this is the external service. Then we say socket on. So like the socket emits like events. So when a message is created, it's going to call this method. This is like ES6 arrow syntax, but this is just a function. You're going to get a message, and we're going to call message connection.create instance. Let me pause this just for a second so I can explain what's going on. So anytime someone else, like we're connected to the service, anytime someone else creates a message, we're going to get an event through the socket. We're going to get a message argument here, and we're going to call message connection create instance. And what this does is we're on the chat page. Our model layer like keeps us, and I'm going to go through this in a second, but it keeps a store of all the different model instances, and we're going to tell it, hey, we have a new message, so that it can update itself. Okay. So we have 3 of these. We have messages are created. We have when messages are removed. Oh, I didn't know it was bad. Sorry about that. Yeah, so we can do all the normal CRUD stuff: created, removed, updated. In this app, we're just creating messages. There's no way to delete them or to update them. But theoretically, if you had a better app, it would do that. Okay, now we have two browser windows side by side. You probably still can't see the joke, but it's Adele. Can you see me? And you get it in both browsers instantly. So all we had to do was like import socket.io, like wire it to our message connection or our model, and it just happens, you know, because we're always showing the complete list of messages here. So it makes it very easy to do that kind of thing. All right, here, I have a little couple of slides here to demonstrate like kind of what's going on. All right, so when you call get list, we're doing it in the template, but you can do it in JavaScript as well. This is an example where we have like maybe we have some to-dos. So we're getting two different lists. We're getting a list of new message or new to-dos and a list of assigned to-dos. So we have two lists. So this code here, this represents kind of like the actual raw data. We have an array of objects, two arrays, and it's showing up in the display. Now internally what happens is can connect, which is our modeling layer, it keeps these kind of like in a, you know, it keeps these in like a, we call a list store. So it has like a store of all the different to-dos. And what happens is we get to-do connection, update instance. So like, you know, when we're connecting to the socket and we get that a message was updated, this message with the ID of 2 was switched to type assign. So it went from new to assign. Like just within the can connect, the list store, it pushes that message down, removes it from the new list and puts it in the assigned list. And it happens in the display as well. You don't have to manipulate the DOM and remove an element and insert it into the other list. It just kind of does it all within the modeling layer, which is with the nice part. All right, cool. So that's like I made it very easy to create a real-time chat application. Let's finish up the home page just to show off a couple of features. We're going to install a third-party component for DoneJS. It's called bit tabs. It's going to be the tabs widget. So we can show off like, you know, you can create and distribute your own components that other people can use, share them. Or if you're like within a company and, you know, you want to share it just within your company, you can do that kind of thing. Within this homepage, the template, we're going to import bit tabs /unstyled. So that gets the version that doesn't have any styles associated with it. It's a component. It has, you know, it's custom element. Actually, there's two custom elements here. There's a tab, which is kind of the entire thing. Then there's a panel, which is like each panel within a tab. We're just going to have two panels. And the title is what actually shows up in the tab part. And the inside is what shows up, you know, within the body of the thing. It's hard to explain tabs, but you can barely see that. I don't know why. You get the picture. It's not worth doing all that for tabs. But anyways, yeah, we inserted this code to set up our different panels. We have a CanJS panel, which is what this says. We have the Steel.js, which is our module loader here, and you can click on them. So it makes it very easy to use and share components. That was the only point of me showing you that. So that's the home page. So now we have the complete application. However, we need to ship this to production, and we don't want to do that in the current state. Let's open up our dev tools and let's look at the network tab. Let's refresh, and we are doing 191 requests. That's probably more than you want to actually have your user do. That's a lot of requests for a very small chat application. And that's because our module loader runs in the browser. We actually make a request for all the different modules, which makes it easy to do things like create demo pages and create a lot of little small pages to kind of help with the productivity. But anyways, when you actually want to ship to production, you need to pack all this down. So we can do that. We run DoneJS build. There's a build.js. There's a script which kind of configures the build, but we have a default one. Let me stop it for a second. What it does is it like analyzes all your dependencies, and it knows that we have like two in our app. We have a home page and we have a chat page. And what it's going to do is it's going to create separate bundles for each of those. But then what's also going to do is it's going to see that there's some shared dependencies between the bundles. So for example, well, this is not the case. I'm trying to think. Yeah, okay, so both pages use Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is a common dependency between both of those. And what it might do, it might not do this, kind of, it's smart about this, but it might take Bootstrap and put that into like another bundle that's kind of common between the two. So like the home page has only the stuff that's specific to the home page, and the chat page has only the stuff, the chat bundle has only the stuff, the JavaScript specific to the chat page, but then it will create like these smaller kind of shared bundles as well. But it's smart about trying to maximize, you know, kind of how many bundles you have. You don't want to have too many bundles, but then you also don't want your bundles to be too fat. So it kind of tries to balance those two things, and you can configure how it does that, but we don't need to do it for this app. All right, so then we switch to production mode. You just have to set the node-env variable to production. Run DoneJS start, which is going to start our server. Now when refresh, now we're only getting 10 requests, and this includes an image and the favicon and the HTML and all that stuff too. So it's reduced it down to, I think it has, yeah, we have a home component messages bundle. So we have a common bundle between our two pages. But we have the full advantage of progressive loading as well. So that's a really good thing. We're going to do deployment. We're going to use Firebase. You already showed he had a Firebase app. Firebase is a cool, I don't know what you even call it. It's like a back-end as a service kind of thing. But we're just going to use the CDN part. Like you can, it will do CDN for you. What CDN means is that you can send your like static assets, your JavaScript, your CSS, your images to a CDN, and they'll distribute it throughout the world. And that way, when a user goes to your site, they're going to hit the servers closest to them. Just makes pages load faster. Firebase does a lot more than that, but that's the only part that we're going to use in this app. So all we do is we go to Firebase. We're creating a new app called DoneJS Chat Demo. There's some, if you go to donejs.com, there's a guide where you actually build this application if you want to go through it. And there's some configuration here to set up our Firebase connection or Firebase configuration. You just got to copy and paste it.
JSON?
Yeah, it's all within the package.json. Yeah, this config is. It looks like a lot, but it's you only have to change a couple of things. So what we're doing is we're setting up our deployment so that we're going to run a command to actually deploy to the CDN, and that's what that first snippet was. And this next snippet is going to set it so that in production mode we get our like the script tag is going to be, it's going to have Firebase as the URL in the script tag, and the CSS is going to have Firebase. So we're going to run all of our resources from that. So what we're saying is we're in the server production environment. We're setting our base URL to DoneJS chat demo.firebaseapp.com.
I didn't see it. Did you also download the Firebase, like Firebase tools?
No, we have like a wrapper for this. You know, it comes with DoneJS. We have a module that uses Firebase tools. So you can just run DoneJS we got to run the build again so that it builds that configuration into the production build. You run DoneJS deploy, which is going to deploy it to Firebase.
I want to Firebase because I can fit.
Yes. Yeah. The larger snippet, it kind of says how here's my dist folder and here's the name of my app, and I think it sets up like cores and a couple of other things.
Is that a free service?
Yeah, that one is, yeah. We also have, you can deploy to like AWS has a CDN. That one's not free, but it's like super cheap. But yeah, the Firebase one is free. Okay, so now we've deployed to Firebase. Oh no, we haven't. We have to authorize it the first time, so it's gonna allow us to do it, and then it's gonna deploy. It deploys like pretty quickly. So we're not gonna show this off here, but what we normally do is we set up continuous deployment as well. So like if you're using GitHub, there's a service called Travis, which will, it's servers, and they'll do deployment for you. So it will deploy it to Firebase every time like you merge the master, if you want to set that up.
What was it on that?
Travis CI. All right, cool. So now we're in production mode again, just like we were a minute ago. However, we're connected to, we're rendering stuff as Firebase URLs. So when we refresh the browser again, let's bring up our dev tools so actually you can see it happen. Notice now that we have our sources here are all coming from Firebase. So we have our bundles. You're seeing more than actually is happening because there's source maps showing up. But yeah, our JavaScript is and our CSS are both coming from Firebase now. So we have distributed assets, which is nice. All right, cool. So yeah, we also have desktop and mobile apps. So we can build these out to Cordova, which is a way to build JavaScript and HTML apps and deploy them to like the App Store. And then we'll use NWJS for desktop. We're going to build the iOS version here. So all you have to do is run DoneJS add Cordova. So we have like these different there's like a bunch of different plugins that you can use for DoneJS. And the way that you add a plugin to your project is you run DoneJS add blank. So we want to add Cordova. We run DoneJS add Cordova, and that's going to install all the stuff needed to deploy to Cordova. So you only have to do this one time. It's going to ask you a bunch of questions, and then you'll do a build. That happened quicker than I'd hoped for. Yeah, it's going to ask you like what platforms you want to support. We're only going to support iOS because we're on a Mac. Then we run DoneJS build Cordova. It's going to do the normal build that we saw before for the browser, but it's also going to deploy and it's going to launch a iOS simulator here. So this is a simulator of iOS. We have the app running. We can enter another message. Adele says hello from the other side. And we have the browser running on the right. And we get that message.
Does it run the simulator through Mexico?
You don't have, no, it doesn't. There's a thing called on NPM called iOS Sim, which launches the simulator. So it's using that. Now you might have to set up Xcode to actually like ship it to the App Store or something probably, but I'm not sure. Never actually tried that. Then we could do DoneJS add NW, which installs NWJS, which is a way to build desktop applications, sort of like Cordova does for mobile. It's going to ask you a bunch of questions. You can just hit enter for most things. And it's going to ask you what platforms. We're doing OS X here. Then we do DoneJS build NW, which will build our NW version. It happens really quickly. It's going to create, for Mac, it creates these little .app folders. You can just launch them with, I think, open DoneJS chat.app, and it's going to open the application. So now we have all three of these. What's Adele going to say this time? Spence is put on. Hello from the outside. I don't know the lyrics of this song, but you can't see that at all. But anyways, it's funny. Haha. And it happens all three at the same time. So we got all three running because we got the real-time connection. We get it, all three get it at the same time. Oh no, that's not good. All right. That was the end of it anyways. Okay, so yeah, that's a real-time chat application that we built with DoneJS. We were able to do that pretty quickly, I think, what, 45 minutes here? Yeah, but that shows off just, it didn't show off everything. It shows kind of maybe our core features. There's more involved. We didn't do documentation. We didn't do testing. We didn't write any tests, which is very important. We didn't set up continuous deployments or anything like that. What else didn't we do? There's a whole bunch of stuff we didn't do. If you go to donejs.com, there's a guides thing at the top, and you can go to the quick start guide. That's this thing. If you wanted to just build this app, it'd take you, I don't know, maybe if you're doing it slowly, a couple hours maybe. But yeah, you can build this app that we just built. Then there's a comprehensive guide as well, where you build like a more advanced application. It has, several more pages. Each page is a little bit more complex than what we built there. So you have, some more complicated forms and stuff. It's not that complicated. It's still easy. It's DoneJS. But yeah, we have that guide as well. We're setting up, I think I mentioned it in the comments, maybe not, but we're setting up a DoneJS rally meetup. And the idea is we want to get as many people who are interested in DoneJS as possible. And if you sign up for the meetup, we're gonna try to do like a Saturday training where we create this app together, do an all-day training. So yeah, if you wanna, I don't have the link here. I'll put the link in the meetup comments. But yeah, if enough people sign up, that would be awesome. Really, I want to come because I don't get a chance to come to North Carolina often. I'd like to come back down, and yeah, that'd be fun. So thank you. Thanks for everyone for coming. Appreciate it. If there are any questions, I'll try my best.
Question, something from towards the beginning when you were showing some of the techniques used to get improved performance. You mentioned that the first thing coming through the pipe is the HTML and the data, whatever data
Yes.
is, right?
Yes.
And then comes the JavaScript and CSS, and this is an advantage.
I can't spell rally, so sorry, go ahead.
This is an advantage because, you have stuff rendered by web rise, but across my mind, doesn't that leave you susceptible in a large complex page site to the notorious flash of unstyled content? It looks like crap for a second or two, and then the CSS arrives and cleans things up for you.
No, it doesn't, because we put the CSS is in the top of the page. So the browser will block until the CSS is loaded. Does that make sense?
Okay.
It won't block. It will continue to do everything. It just won't paint until that happens. So CSS isn't. That's why you always put the CSS in the head, so that you prevent the flash.
Okay.
Now, what some people do, what some people recommend, and we haven't implemented this yet, but I think like Google and stuff recommend that you inline the CSS in like a style tag at the top of the head. That way, you don't actually have to make that CSS request at all. We haven't implemented that. I'd like to do it, but that's probably like the ultimate way to do that kind of thing.
I think that slide showed CSS plus JS as the second step after HTML and data.
Well, the request is, yeah. But like the user doesn't see it though. So what happens is you have the HTML. You still have to make the CSS request. Like the browser won't paint the page to the user. So there's no flash until it happens. It's a good question.
So you kind of blazed through it a little bit there. I'm just
Yeah, sorry.
backing up on the, it's not really a browser-based thing that you're creating this application for
It is.
iOS.
Oh, yeah. That
It's
part.
like Xamarin, sort of. It's an app. It's not.
It is browser based. Like there's a thing called Cordova, which basically it runs like a browser context within the app. So it is rendering a page.
So it's an app.
It's an app, yeah.
It's a web view bundle.
It's a web, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a mini browser inside an app.
And from the Xamarin point of view, not from
The Xamarin's,
it's HTML. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's like Polymer. I mean, it's
yeah, it's similar to that.
components and-
Yeah.
Interesting.
Cool.
Was there any other like concepts or anything that maybe weren't very clear? I'm curious. There was a lot of stuff on there.
Yeah.
I mean, connecting to like a RabbitMQ kind of thing, a Redis cache. I look at that URL section where you set the URL and say, I could put something else in there, and connect to something.
Well, anything that you host as a service, you can connect to it. So I mean, you can't directly connect to Redis, but if you have a service which exposes like a Redis thing, you can do that. So yeah, you can connect it to a Java service or any type of service.
This is mostly front end with
Yeah.
back end going to generate framework.
The back end stuff is just for like rendering. It's just for that initial page render. Just for rendering the HTML. Now you don't have to use that part. There's some that don't want to use it because then they won't have to run a node server or something like that. Like if you have a Java backend, you don't want to add a second server. It's better to do so, but you don't have to use the server aspect at all.
This is a Node app that's running on V8 engine.
Yeah, we're using Node. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
But
that's something forking, clustering.
you can use that stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
The application is being built in the application itself.
Yeah, the application. Yeah.
DoneJS as the command line tool. We have two things. When you say app, I guess I'm trying to figure out what app you're talking about. The thing that we're building or the thing we're using to build?
That's the question.
Well, when you run like DoneJS develop, that runs like a HTTP server that loads your code, and it runs your code just like it does in the browser. But it's hard to conceptualize that because you have a server which runs your code, but then it gets delivered to the browser and it's the same code. It's hard for me to think about sometimes too. But it's easier just to think about it like it's just a normal HTTP server. It just happens to be running the same code as in the browser. Because we've set it up so that it looks the same to the code.
Would you be up to aliasing the build command?
What?
Would you mind? Can we alias it to done?
I don't know if we can do that actually. That's the one thing that I might be able to do. Done or DoneJS done. Yeah, actually, all those commands run off. NPM has this section called scripts where you can like specify different scripts. So you can like create arbitrary scripts and you can run DoneJS. Make me soup, and it won't do that. But you can create whatever you want.
Yeah, but then suddenly you're gonna have to find a reason for dun dun dun.
I think I missed the introduction. So, who's behind this? I know it's open source, open source framework, but who's behind this project? Like, who's maintaining it and who's funding it? Like, is this owned by VW and VW uses for training for developers?
Yeah,
and that's it, or are there other companies or foundation behind it?
We don't have a foundation. Our company is the primary sponsor of it. Yeah. Bitovi's a consulting company. We do consulting. We use this in all of our different jobs. You know, we have some big clients, like Apple uses our stuff. Sam's Club uses us. So we have some big clients. We have different people who contribute to it, not just within Bitovi. We have external contributors as well. But like funding, yeah, that's who funds it. So we have myself and 2 other people who are full time on the DoneJS project, and we have like different outside contributors. Similar to like the Ember guys, they do the same thing. They have a consulting company.
So any history of why you choose to create this framework versus using another one, or what was the thing that the other was getting do for you?
Well, this was created all like back in 2007 and stuff, so there really weren't very many options back then. So it's kind of evolved over time. A lot of our focus has been on like kind of these bigger multi-page kind of applications. It's more about like kind of, you know, we need all of these different things to build the apps, and they're, you know, versus picking and choosing little parts. Kind of built all these parts over time.
So what you said back then, I think I heard CanJS for a while, but I think still
CanJS is part of it, yeah.
Still JS is kind of new of like using ES module, uploading those type of things like server-side rendering, or something.
Some of it's new. Steel's been around since like 2010 or something.
Or maybe what's DoneJS.
DoneJS, okay, so the history, sorry. There's a framework called JavaScript MVC, which had like, it had the MVC part, I don't remember what it was called. It had Steel, it had documentation. So we had like all the big pieces. They were called different things back then. A few years later, CanJS, which is kind of the UI layer, came about. We rebuilt Steel, rebuilt Document.js. We added server-side rendering like last summer. So it's kind of, yeah, that part's new. A lot of it's new, actually. A lot of it's been like either rebuilt or is new. But it's like server-side rendering didn't matter back in 2007. No one had it. I mean, no one was really trying that kind of thing, and it's become popular within the last couple of years.
One more question. You mentioned Iron Ajax. So what would be the equivalent in DoneJS of Iron Ajax?
I have no idea what that is. Was Iron Ajax?
It's just a tag that automatically makes an Ajax request for you. So it's one of those.
Oh, is it a
non-UI tags?
Well, you see, you remember in the model we had the message model. So that's your model. So
Socket. There was socket.
well, it does both. So like.
It's XHR, you know.
Yeah, it is XHR. It's XHR to start, but then the socket is what keeps you connected to the service. I think that's how it works.
Refresh without re-rendering the page, just behind the scenes communication.
Well, I don't think it'd be real time by default. I mean, he just added that real time aspect into it.
Yeah.
It'd be very much like Iron Ajax with just making it simple next call. I think it's the same thing.
Can import is sort of like that, right?
What's that?
Can import.
What about?
It's sort of like an Ajax plugin. It is. It loads a script.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And it has no template. It just, I mean, it can, but
Yeah, we have a few different components that there's a few things that don't have any UI.
There's leverage system there.
Yeah, we have a fork of that. Yeah.
You showed importing less files. Does it also support SAS or any other?
We do have a SAS plugin. It honestly, it doesn't work great just because SAS is like a C++ program. So there's a browser SAS, but I wouldn't recommend using it. So I think a lot of people use SAS. What you do with SAS is like you render your SAS, you know, in some type of build script or something. And instead of importing the SAS, you would import the CSS.
Would you be able to? So you had your declared.
But you can do it, but you probably shouldn't.
You had your style tag within your component. I mean,
yeah.
You'd be able to just dive into all those components and compile the SAS or less within those.
Like with less, there is a plugin that runs like in the browser. So in development, it actually runs less in the browser, compiles it to CSS. So you can do that. And then when it does the build, you know, it has all the CSS and it packs them into like these little bundles and stuff. And there is a plugin for Sass. That's what he was asking. There is one, and it does run in the browser. However, it's a very large thing that it's kind of slow, is what I've heard. So what you can do is, like, a lot of editors will compile Sass for you, like in the editor. I think Atom has plugins for that kind of thing. So if you use that, and it will compile the CSS, and you'll import the CSS. Is how I would recommend to do that. Question.
Are you able to declare like delayed loading for models inside of a page? So you load your page, but there's tabs that aren't viewed initially. And you click on them.
Yeah, definitely. Like, so, like, you know, it's like a handlebars-based language, so you can have like if statements inside of there. So you can say if I don't know, yeah, if it's inside of a tabs, you would have it in one of the panels, and that panel would only get rendered. You would have like a little if thing. You would say, you know, if show things, and you put your model stuff there, and it would actually make the request when it shows up. Yeah, everything's kind of like lazy in that way.
Good.
Good.
Thanks again for coming.
Cool. Thank you all.
So just a reminder, May 26th, Thursday.
Oh, can I say one more thing? Sorry, I actually brought shirts, and not a whole lot of people asked for one. If you follow us on Twitter or star us on GitHub, I'll give you a shirt. So if you want a shirt, ask me after. Sorry.
All right, Thursday, May 26th at Dude Solutions in Cary, the React.js ecosystem. And according to my poll, it looks like Ron's growing more, so we're going to set up a Gear.js for Ron. Thanks for coming. Thanks for SageWorks for hosting us. Thanks for pizza and everything.
No, it generates like kind of basic code for you, but you still need to write. You still write most of the code yourself.
It's something like, yeah, because I don't know this.
No, it's not. It's like you run some generators, and it generates kind of like boilerplate code for you.